Today we're going over intervals, why they're important, and how you can use them in a practical way. Let's get started. An interval is a distance between two notes. The distance between any two notes can vary, and each interval has a specific sound. In music, each different type of interval has a name. This allows musicians to quickly identify any type of interval and communicate it if need be. Intervals are the building blocks of music. Much in the same way that letters of the alphabet are the building blocks of language, intervals function in a similar way within music. One letter on its own isn't enough to express a thought or an idea. An interval is a small unit of music. On its own, it's not enough to get the message across. But like language, if you put letters together, they begin to form words. From there, you build sentences, paragraphs. You can express ideas, emotions, and thoughts. To get to the point where you can express yourself, you need to first learn the alphabet. If you struggle to see the utility of intervals, this should help you see the bigger picture. To understand music on a deeper level, you have to grasp the fundamental building blocks of melody and harmony, and they begin with intervals. Take any two notes. The distance between them is an interval. Each interval has a different quality, meaning a different sound, and each interval has a different name. This is for us to be able to specifically identify and communicate a specific interval. Two things go into naming intervals: distance and quality. Let's measure distance first. Starting from C, we'll count each letter once, so in this case, D flat and D will only get one number, 2. Same thing for E flat and E. I don't count this twice for right now. So C to D is a second. We don't know what kind of second yet. Each different letter is going to get a number, 1 through 8. To determine the quality, we'll determine the amount of half steps or semitones from one note to the other. C is 0, because to go from C to C, you really haven't traveled anywhere. C to D flat is 1 semitone. And we'll go all the way up to 12. That's why on a guitar, the notes start all over again on the 12th fret. There are 12 notes total before the cycle begins all over again. Now we have everything we need to determine the distance and quality of every interval. We know that C to D is a second, but if it's 2 semitones away from C, it's a major second. We know that C to E is a third. If it's 4 semitones away from C, it's a major third. If F is 5 semitones away from C, it's called a perfect fourth. If G is 7 semitones away from C, it's called a perfect fifth. Now A is 9 semitones away from C, that makes it a major sixth. B is 11 semitones away from C, so that makes it a major seventh. And then C, being 12 semitones away from C, it makes it a perfect octave. The notes F, G, and C on the higher octave are called perfect intervals because they're on the key of each other. For example, take F. C is in the key of F, and F is in the key of C. With the perfect fifth, G is in the key of C, and C is in the key of G. The octave is C. Obviously, C is in the key of C. We have a few intervals left, and this is where the accidentals start to come in. For example, we're trying to identify the intervals between C and D flat. We know it's a second, but it's no longer a major second because it's 1 semitone away, not 2. If the second is lowered by a half step, it becomes a minor second. A minor second is 1 semitone away from the root note, in this case C. Let's fill in the rest of the notes. E flat is 3 semitones away from C. That makes it a minor third. Perfect intervals are either augmented or diminished. There is no such thing as a major fourth or a minor fifth. So F sharp is either going to be an augmented fourth, or G flat is going to be a diminished fifth. This is the same note, but it has 2 different names. So we know that F has to be some kind of fourth. It can't be a fifth. And G has to be some kind of fifth. It can't be a fourth. So G is either going to be a perfect fifth or a diminished fifth. And F is either going to be a perfect fourth or an augmented fourth. Now let's go through the rest of the notes. A flat is 8 semitones away from C, making it a minor sixth. B flat is 10 semitones away from C, making it a minor seventh. Now let's take a look at how these intervals function within the bigger context of music. I won't go through all of them, just some famous pieces or songs for us to understand how intervals fit in the real world. Now let's look at some intervals with their actual music.
You have made a grave mistake, Odin's son.
I make grave mistakes all the time. Everything seems to work out.
If you're writing music, you can use your knowledge of intervals to impact harmony or melody in different ways. Take a C major chord for example. If we play notes on the higher register against the C chord, it's going to change the whole thing. We can start by playing the notes in the chord itself. For example, the root, the major third, or the fifth. But what if we played a major second? What about a major seventh? We changed the C major into a C major seventh chord by adding the B on top. The more you think about intervallic qualities, the more you'll be acquainted with them. You'll be able to associate specific sounds and sometimes emotions with certain intervals. Whether you're improvising, composing, producing, or just writing songs, having a working knowledge of intervals can help you speed up your process. It can help you understand what you're doing, and you might have a melody in your head. Now you can break it down into specific musical components. The amount of things you can do with this information is literally endless. Your creativity will dictate the possibilities.